Okay. I'm here with David. David?
Thomas?
We're here in Boston.
In Cambridge?
In Cambridge, Massachusetts, right near Harvard there behind us.
This is the ugly building at Harvard.
The ugly building of Harvard. And we're here to talk about what?
Future of Seemsic.
Future of Seemsic and how posting should work. We had a very interesting conversation about whether posting should be long, short, and limitations. We actually spoke about this previously on Seemsic. What is your sense about? You brought up a very interesting term in the discussion, which I really loved, called social physics.
Yeah, this is John Clippinger's term. So, and the idea is that the term physics implies there's a science here, which I don't think there is, but maybe we just don't know the science yet. The idea is that very small changes in implementation of software, particularly social software, can have profound and, well, at this point, unpredictable effects on the nature of the communication, of sociality itself.
Right. So the
focusing on me
I'm
now.
Focusing on you for a moment now because I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So what does social physics imply for a site like Seemsic?
That that very small implementation ideas can be transformative, can make the whole thing fall apart, can make it suddenly rise to glory, and new social forms can emerge from it. So, for example, outside the world of Seemsic, whether a conversation, threading or unthreading a conversation is a little thing, but can have an enormous effect on the nature of the conversation, even the tone of voice that's used. And we've all seen this happen. But that's a very little thing. How long a post is allowed to stay up? Does it get taken down after a certain amount of time? Are there limitations posted about the language? So what we were talking about, and we'll turn this back to you in a second, is what happens if you impose a constraint on how long Seemsic posting is supposed to be. And maybe you allow people to violate it or not, but let's say you were to encourage people to talk for a minute or for 2 minutes. What effect would that have on the social relationships among the people using Seemsic? And that's an interesting question, I think. So,
so I'll use an example that had interesting discussions in Sweden a week or two ago with SVD, which is one of the most forward-looking media companies in Sweden, one of the most wired countries in the world. And they have a very interesting discussion about how they will have comments. Only a certain length of time comments are allowed on articles in their newspaper, and they're very limited in length. They want them to be very focused on the topic of what that newspaper article is about, and then they'll allow you to switch after 7 days, say, that you can no longer comment on the article, and that series of comments, that thread, turns into an actual discussion forum. And what I was wondering is if there's a way that you can do that with Seemsic, which is make sort of Seemsic forums. I know I want to talk on Seemsic about the U.S. presidential election, or Seemsic as a platform. What are the advantages or disadvantages of Seemsic? Is there a way to make that into a thread and then relate it to one another?
So what I think is that's a great example, really interesting to see how the SVD stuff works.
Which there's some of that they have not yet implemented. They're sort of in the phase of implementing this.
And the overall question I think that this raises for Seemsic is, this is a type of social engineering, social physics, type of social engineering, but that implies that Seemsic needs to have a sense of what it wants to be, what sorts of interactions it wants to enable or encourage, facilitate, and then do what it can to shape them in that direction. Now, I don't know what it is exactly. I have ideas what I would like Seemsic to be, how I would use it. I don't know what Seemsic itself as a platform wants to be, but whatever it wants to be, it needs obviously to do the social engineering to...
Right, but what it wants to be as a platform, I think, is an interesting question, because what I find so fascinating, what I like watching in Seemsic, is to see how people are sort of evolving in their use of that platform.
Absolutely, that is the most interesting thing about it. But our ability, again, obviously, our ability to evolve depends a lot on what Seemsic provides us. So if it provides an easy way of threading, that'll be one type of it. If it provides an easy way to find a topic, to take your idea, and to build and cluster around it, that'll be a different type of platform.
Or maybe even, or what you were talking about is constraints. If they find a way that a constraint, either a strict or an encouraged constraint, actually makes it a stronger pushes the community to use it in a particular way. Okay, well, thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Thomas.